Chapter 33. Our Arrival. Our ship inched its way into the harbor. Sarpent's craft gleamed in the sunlight. Its craftsmanship exceeded anything in the harbor. The other ships were mostly smaller, and rarely did one have the elegant sails our ship did. Elchie, Huon, and I were all like children leaning over the side. We couldn't have been more excited. When we dropped anchor, I could feel my heart jump. This was it. This is what I'd waited so long for. I clutched the box of records to my chest. These records represented more to me than the documentation of thousands of years of history. It had become a part of me. It was my closest friends who were no longer there to share this moment, but had contributed so greatly to this project. Elchie looked over at me, seeing me holding the box tightly, and said, "What is it, Esser? Why do you clutch the box like that?" I was just thinking of those who helped contribute to them and how I wish they were here to share this moment. You always told me that they were here in spirit. You're right. I'm sure they are. Although I was feeling melancholy, I changed the subject and tried to enjoy the exuberance that both Huon and Elchie emitted. After the ship was docked, Zarpin accompanied Huon, Elchie, and I into the city. Since he had been there many times, he would easily be able to direct us to transportation to the site where our friends had constructed the temples and the Hall of Records. Sade was a beautiful city and was a mixture of many races. It was a large port and had traded with countries all over the world. It was like Og had severed trade with ATLATIA many years before, after the attack on their prince. Now the country was governed by a white man from the country to the northeast of Sade. He was a good man and respected by all. He had come to this position with the assistance of the high priest Rata, a transplanted Atlatian, who had also promoted the building of the pyramids and the Sphinx in the lower part of Sade. Although the people of Sade resented the power of ATLATIA and feared the possibility of becoming another acquisition of ATLATIA, they had come to love those of the Law of One who had inhabited their country. The immigrants had brought with them knowledge such as mathematics and medicine that the Sadians had never been introduced to. That knowledge helped the country. Rata and the priests were able to give them medical assistance better than they'd ever known. It was for these reasons that we were not regarded as the enemy as we walked through the streets of the city. In fact, people were friendly and were glad to assist us. We spent the night in Sade before beginning our journey to the Records resting ground. Zarpin arranged a boat for us that would take us down the river. He insisted upon us going with us and to commodore the boat. He knew the river and could guide us as well as any native. We were fortunate. The next day was another beautiful day. The sun glowed its golden beams down upon the sparkling water. The river reminded me of ATLATIA. In Alta there were many rivers. However, none could be as beautiful as this. Along the edge, great reeds flanked by streams of water lilies. There were no wind, and as they were slowly rowing downstream, the only sound other than the sound of the oars splashing in the water was the sounds of birds who perched on the trees hanging above. At that moment I envied the bird of whom I was and am, and always will be. Such freedom he appeared to have, such peace. That bird with the beautiful red crown and black and white striped wings seemed to be following us. He would go from tree to tree as we went further along the river. The trip was enjoyable, peaceful, and relaxing. Elchie and Huon took great pleasure in helping with the rowing. At first they were not in the rhythm of the row and had the boat going side to side of the river, but after a while they were able to keep us steady in the center. After 3 days on the river, we started our trek on land. This would be another 3 days. We carried only minimal of supplies, just enough to get us there so we were not bogged down with baggage. The first day walk, it was very quiet. Hardly a word was said as we walked. Usually Elchie would be clowning and joking with Huon, but even he was quiet. The land was beautiful. It was lush with green, much like our homeland. Perhaps that was why we were so quiet. I couldn't explain it. We camped close to the road the first night, hoping that perhaps a donkey with a cart would go by so we could pick up a ride. There wasn't much travel done on this road. We had only seen an occasional traveler, and usually, like us, with no transportation. That night we built a fire, and Elchie and Huon prepared us a light meal with our provisions. It was a warm, bright night. The moon was almost full, and the sky was sparkling with the suns of the universe. We decided that we would have a group meditation and prayer. Thanks for our trip's safety thus far. We often meditated singularly, but rarely as a group, and that night we attained a oneness that none of us shall ever forget. The energy was great between us, and suddenly our energies converged, creating a powerful, blissful oneness. It was magnificent. The next morning, as we prepared to leave, we heard the sound of donkey and horse hoofs coming towards us. We waited, watching for the travelers to come into view. 2 men appeared on horses with 2 horses in tow. As they drew closer, I thought I was seeing things. Could it really be ATLATIA coming to greet us? It was. When he saw that it was me, he jumped off his horse and grabbed me by the shoulders. I couldn't have been more pleased to see anyone. We hugged each other as if we'd never let go. I was overwhelmed with emotion and couldn't help but shed a tear. My friend laughed at my emotion. No need to cry, my friend, although I couldn't be happier to see you. We received word by pigeon that there was a group of ATLATIANs coming to the pyramid site. I knew that it had to be you and Oron. He looked around. Where is he? I could barely bring myself to tell him. He passed on. He became ill in Og. ATLATIA hugged me again. This time he was crying. It grieves me that he couldn't make it. Yes, me too. I gestured to my friends. ATLATIA, this is Elchi, Pizarro's brother. Yes, I remember seeing you as only a baby. This is Huon, a friend who led us to Rhea and the group in Og. And this is the greatest seafarer in the world, Zarpin. I'm pleased to meet you all. I have brought 2 horses. We will have to double up, but it will be faster than walking. We shall be there by nightfall. Huon and Elchi shared a horse. Zarpin, being so huge, needed one of himself, and I shared with ATLATIA, while ATLATIA's friend Asfar rode the other horse. We took the ride easily, and it gave me and ATLATIA time to catch up on things. They had been waiting for Oron and I for years and feared for our safety. The word of Pundo's madness had reached them, and when they heard of the children of Law of One being taken prisoner, they could only assume the worst. ATLATIA had news to share with me regarding ATLATIA. Pundo's next target for acquisition was the country of Gobi, a land east of Sade, and had been west of Lemuria, where many Lemurians had migrated to. There were rumors that he intended to destroy the entire country if they didn't relinquish their throne to him. Most thought these were idle threats as he made in the past, but others feared that he had finally gone over the edge and would finally try something stupid. Those of the Law of One who remained prisoner at ATLATIA were made into servants and controlled much as the things had been. It was really horrifying to think that one man had done since he had come to power. The sun was setting, and as we reached the pyramid site, we could see the silhouette of the pyramids and the Sphinx ahead of us. They were complete. Somehow I didn't think that they'd be finished, but ATLATIA and Asfar told me that with the power of the great men who worked on them, such as Rata, Izo, Hermes, the project was completed before the projected destruction. Rata had insisted that I meet him as soon as I arrived. ATLATIA took me and my group to a small temple just outside the pyramid site. It was there that I met the great Rata. He was not the large man I expected, but an average-sized man, very humble and very wise. He had worked closely with Miram and knew that she was my wife. He expressed his condolences at my loss, but then said, "But you know she was always with you, as she is now." He insisted upon seeing the records and was quite overwhelmed when I pulled the gold box from under my robe. He blessed them as I opened the box to reveal the tube that housed the many discs of knowledge. While there, a great man, even larger than Zarpin, entered the room. As soon as he entered, I knew that that man held great powers. There was something in his presence that had been like no man I'd ever met before. His name was Hermes. He was not only the great architect, but a man of great vision. Within his creation of the massive structure, the Great Pyramid, he also inventively invented the knowledge of ages, not as the records that were stored before me, but records of time and creation of the universe, with measurements of distances of Earth and beyond. He was greatly impressed with the records as well, expecting a much larger box than the one I possessed. I was decided that the burial must be at once, so it was planned for the following day before sunset.